very often the Bali Tshuva make the from birth individuals look bad. They really do, in a sense, surpass. For them, they know the other side. They know the darkness, and they embracing the light. When you're coming from darkness to light, there's going to be a passion. There's going to be an excitement. I see the truth. When you grow up with the truth, it's very easy to sort of take it for granted. Let me just ride on my parents' coattails, and we take it for granted very often. Well, we see many sons of rabbis do not follow in their father's footsteps. Very often we see kids taking a very different route.
Baruchim Abayim, and welcome to Torah Talks Chazaq's Tuesday night program with special guests. We have with us all the way from Los Angeles.
Correct. The Valley.
Rabbi Stulberger, Shlita, welcome. How's the Rav doing?
Chazak Hashem, doing great. From the Valley, we send regards to all of Klal Yisrael.
Okay, amazing. Gavaldi, Chazak Hashem. We're going to be talking about inside and out, all about the teenagers. And before we get to the exciting topic, I guess, a little bit of background of the rabbi and the great work you're involved with.
Yes, I went to Yeshiva Chavetz Chaim High School and Beis Medrash in Queens. Yes, Baruch Hashem, 13 years post high school, and the real schus. I grew up in Queens myself. I'm a Queens boy, Kew Gardens boy myself. 1986, we moved to Valley Torah High School to Los Angeles, to the Valley. We've been here ever since. My main focus. We have a boys' school. About 130 boys. We have another girls' school of 130 girls. I'm responsible for both schools. Been doing that for, like I say, 37 years. This is my 38th year, Baruch Hashem. And in addition, I have the hat. I wear the hat of the head of the Yeshiva Principals Council here in Los Angeles. So very often shilas that come up with schools, getting into schools, being thrown out of schools, different issues that come up also come my way as I have to facilitate some of the strategies to deal with those challenges in terms of kids not having yeshiva, both elementary school and high school. And as well, we also learned a lot serving on the advisory board of Aleinu for a number of years, dealing with the crisis on many levels in America, which again filters into the teenage world, into the Klal Yisrael world. So those issues are also very much on my mind and things that I have experience in.
Amazing. Yeshakar Chvalei to Rabbi Stulberger. Michael El-Chai from Strength to Strength. So the topic of chinuch is in everyone's mind, educating our youth, our children. What is the difference with regards to chinuch, with regards to children and teenagers? Is there a difference with elementary aged and high school aged?
Absolutely. I mean, and the Sephora, there's a lot we can talk about, but the Sephora introduces us a little bit when he talks about Yosef, when he was now, and he was, as the end of Bereshis, we are told about Yosef in the whole episode with the brothers, and Vunar says the Sephora, there was a certain challenge being a Nar at 17 years old. He defines it as not as smart as he was, as brilliant as he was, and he was Yosef at Tzaddik. At the same time, there's a certain element of a teenager coming into his own, and number one, focus on the immediacy, which is the Sephorna's point, focus on the immediacy of the moment where he really could not see the roas hanolat of his actions. And the discussions that he had with Yaakov and the whole issue of Lashon Hara regarding the brothers, he responded from a position, obviously, again, we're talking about Yosef at Tzaddik, but at the same time, that Nar was defined as somebody who responds to the immediate as opposed to the long term. And that is something that we've seen, in the teenage world, even the scientific world that very often jumps on the bandwagon way later than the Torah, of course. But sometimes they do get it right, and they do recognize that what the Torah teaches us is accurate. They too recognize that there is something about the teenage brain that really is very different than the adult brain. And certainly as a youngster before the teenage years, we're not in that mode where it's got to be my way. Teenagers are very often young men and young women that are feeling their oats, that have found new level of independence, new levels of awareness, and the need to understand that and to respect it while at the same time creating the proper guidelines is something that parents find very challenging. how do you give that teenager the level of independence while at the same time saying this is the way it is and I'm still the parent? And when we make mistakes in that regard, we very often, chas v'shalom, end up paying the results where we see too much pushback and a lot of issues.
Right, 100%. So as parents listening in, what is the right approach with regard to dealing chinuch with educating our teenagers? How much space do we give them? They want to go and explore. We know the importance, and also if there's a difference between the boys and the girls.
Okay, so there's a lot to be said on this topic. Number one, we really, if we think that we're going to win the teenage battle by putting our foot down, as many parents think, and I'm going to show my kid, I'm boss, I run the show, and this is the way it's going to be. It's my way or the highway, and that whole mentality, you might win short term, you're not going to win long term. I always say, you care about how firm they are when they're 15, or you care about how firm they are when they're 25 and 35. So you might win the battle of the 15-year-old, but then when you wake up and they're 20 years old and the fire is gone, and they want to leave yeshiva, and they're not developing the way you want them to, and you just what's happening? And that is, if you speak to Rabbanim throughout America, it's a very much a crisis within Klal Yisrael of the disconnected Jew, and sometimes even Kollel younger, like they leave, and you look at them a few years after Kollel, what happened? And the question is, it wasn't really their own. We didn't give our kids a chance to truly internalize who they are as Jews, how their avodas Hashem, their service to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is really properly in line. I just for a second, I'll say very briefly, but just really on this last week's parsha, we just read in Parshas Toldos, the author of Kelm has an incredible vart, a credible idea when he says, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu answer Yitzchak's tefillah instead of Rivka's tefillah? Right. And Rashi says you can't compare the tefillah of a righteous person, the son of a righteous person, compared to a righteous person who's the son of a wicked person. And he asked, what do you mean? Just the opposite of Baal Tshuva. We know that somebody who repents, who comes close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is on a much higher level than even a great tzaddik. So what's pshat that all of a sudden here Yitzchak gets answered and not Rivka? Rivka came from a house of Besuel. They were idol worshippers. They were conniving, sleazy people, and yet Rivka became Rivka. Shouldn't she be given so much more credit? He says a fantastic idea that very often the Baalei Tshuva make the FFBs, the from birth individuals, look bad. They really do, in a sense, surpass the ones who grew up. Why? Because for them, they know the other side. They know the darkness, and they embracing the light. When you're coming from darkness to light, there's going to be a passion. There's going to be an excitement. There's going to be, I want to do everything right. There's no sort of lackadaisical mentality when you are taking full advantage of the opportunity you've been given, because Baruch Hashem, I see the truth. When you grow up with the truth, it's very easy to sort of take it for granted. I'm the son of Avrohom Avinu. I'm the son of Sari Meinu. Let me just ride on my parents' coattails. And, we take it for granted very often. Well, we see many sons of rabbis do not follow in their father's footsteps. Very often we see kids taking a very different route. And what Yitzchak, he explains, was unique from the point of view that he was able to grow up in Avram's house and in Sarah's house, and yet he made it his own. He was a tzaddik. Ben tzaddik means he didn't just ride on their coattails. He totally said, this is my job. I have to be my Yitzchak. I have to be my unique individual person who achieved greatness, not because who my father is, who my mother is. It's about who I am. I need to be the best I could be. I think for us, we have to find ways to allow space for our kids to make choices where they see Yiddishkeit as their own. Even if the kids forget about being rebellious. They're not rebellious, they follow orders. But if it's only orders that they're following, so did it ever become theirs? Did they ever show for davening because they want to be there for davening? Did they ever spend an extra time at Seder because they chose to be learning longer? Or is it because pressure, peer pressure, the parents, you got to do this, you got to be the top kid in the class. All these pressures we create. When do we give this young adult a chance to really embrace Torah for what it really is, the most beautiful life in the world? But they have to embrace it. It has to be theirs. And when they wake up, some of these kids wake up, and boys or girls, they wake up 20, 22, 25, sometimes even later, and like I never bought into this. I kept following orders. I kept following what people were telling me. So it's a tough thing to navigate. There's not one formula, but number one, we have to give them some space to sort of let them choose their way. And that's why we have to listen to them. We have to talk to them. And the other point is that telling them is really not the answer. Our job as parents is to make Yiddishkeit so beautiful, so uplifting, so exciting, so vibrant, so relevant that who would want to live another life? Because nobody really, when they know what Torah is about, no one wants to live another life. Who in the world would give this up when they know the truth, when we know what it's, how beautiful it is and how uplifting it is and how connected it is? We wouldn't want to go anyplace else. But why do kids do? Because they think they're not getting that satisfaction. This is not what I chose. This is not what I want. And therefore, they very often they leave, and they very often they come back. But how sad is it to have to make this very circuitous route away, and they come back and they go through different challenges, different crises. If we can make it where our home, when they come home, there is this sense of connection and positivity and receptivity and excitement and just the just unbridled joy of being a Torah Yid, that's what they have to see. And then they choose it on their own, as opposed to us telling them what they have to do. And the amount of space, again, I could just maybe speak from a personal experience. Baruch Hashem, I raised 6 kids myself, and now Baruch Hashem, they're married, they have families. But when a kid wants to sort of, dabble, not something that's prohibited, but even something that's permissible, but maybe not exactly what you had in mind. If and then I'll just pick one example that's sort of universal. The kid says, I don't want to wear a hat for davening. I don't feel comfortable with the hat. So I'm picking something very lukewarm where we're not. Okay, you're going to make that battle. You're going to pick that battle. No, you have to wear the hat. So he starts getting resentment, and they start feeling negative. And a girl comes, and I want to do whatever, the earring a little bit here or the second earring. These are not halachic prohibitions, and there's a little independence, a little asserting. Maybe there are school rules, but outside of school, is it so terrible? So I'm picking very parva, lukewarm things that do not go against halacha, but clearly we have to navigate sometimes even against halacha. Gedolim is saying now, even God forbid, if a kid goes completely off, our job is to keep loving them and keep them connected and keep them close. Certainly, if the space that they're asking for is something that's not going against halacha, the idea that my tzaddik is going to do this, no way. No, chas v'shalom, no. We do everything al pi taras hakodesh. Well, it's one thing to feel that way about the overall feeling of your home, but this particular individual, young man or young lady, needs to have some space and needs to feel that, let me find my way. And when they find their way, I'll just say one of my children loved hearing the non-Jewish music, loved listening to non-Jewish music. I could have put my foot down. I didn't. And you know what? How much more meaningful is it that in 11th grade, that particular child says, I dropped it. If I had said no, their whole life, they would have said, my father didn't let me listen, and I want to, and I've all, maybe they sneak it, and they sneak here, they sneak there, and there's resentment. And, I said, just don't play it out loud. Put it in your earbuds. And then so I said, you know how we feel, but if you really want to listen, listen with your, and by 11th grade, where they dropped it and they went in a different direction, Baruch Hashem. So, again, there's no set formula. There's always, you have to consult, you have to ask. But the idea that we just sort of lower the boom and we're happy because 14 through 17, they followed all the rules and they ended up, winning the Torah award at the graduation, we're being short-sighted. We want to produce young men and women that love Yiddishkeit, not just follow orders, because eventually they're not going to want to follow orders. It's not about following orders. It's about living a life that's true, and they should embrace that truth on their own.
Powerful. And it was mentioned also, is there a difference with regards to the raising of boys and girls in teenage years?
Certainly there's a difference, and obviously the challenges of technology and the issues of of exposure.
That was also questioned about technology and phones. That's for the teenagers. There's always that child, that question the parents ask. What's the rule by the yeshiva in Valley Stream?
Valley Torah. We are not a black hat school, so to speak. We're very close, I guess. On the girls' level, we're close to a Beis Yaakov. Maybe on a certain out of town schools, we would be called a Beis Yaakov. But we do. Our girls do have phones. They have to give it in every day. They get it for about 15 minutes. But we're getting girls who, from the schools that they come from, they already come with smartphones, and the boys too. 90 to 95% of our students, when they have graduated from their elementary schools, come to us already with phones. So for us to say you can't have a phone, it would not work in our community with our families. It would not work. But you educate them. You talk about filtering. You talk about tagging the phones, and it involves a lot of education. And Baruch Hashem, there are many places where kids and parents can learn about the dangers of technology. It's no secret as to what it's doing to our kids. So this is where, again, discussion, understanding, setting the tone early, not to allow, if they're third, fourth graders already with the phones and they're already playing on everything, it's about parents taking responsibility, because when they're not teenagers, we could create a certain standard for them about what they're exposed to. If we break down early and just give in to everything that they want, then by the time they get to older years, it's going to be very tough to pull back. And that's where issue of getting into good habits and good environments and creating proper standards is important. While we're creating the positive feelings about Yiddishkeit, yes, there has to be guidelines as well.
100%. Rabbi Stulberger, very, very nice words of wisdom. How about the situation with regards to teenagers and sleeping? So,
well, again, this is where parenting has to come in a little bit, to allow a child unfettered access to technology in their rooms, where there is not an understanding of when that technology stops. It's criminal. I mean, it's nothing short of being criminal, but it happens. I mean, I you come in. I talk about it all the time with the seeing kid. Baruch Hashem, we have 130 boys in the school, but there's certainly a not insignificant number with their heads down. They're exhausted. They can't open up their eyes for davening or for shir. What happened? And this is again not a Valley Torah issue. This is a across the board issue. Well, I was on this and the games and the technology and the Chleis, the Fortnite, all these mishigasim that they're involved with until 4:00 in the morning. Where are the parents saying, not on my watch? No, I'm still the parent. And this is not going to take away their feelings of independence. This is, again, these are all logical things that we can all understand. And the earlier we start with these guidelines, they already understand. My parents love me. They care about me. Kids do want structure. They do want discipline. So we start early. They recognize it's not just a open season to do whatever you want. So yes, it's getting enough sleep. Closing that technology off at the right time is a very critical thing, and not having it in the room, basically unfettered for kids, is an absolute must. But unfortunately, many parents they don't go there. They don't want to fight, and therefore they let it go.
Besides for the going to sleep aspect, there's also the waking up aspect when there's no yeshiva, or even when there is yeshiva. It's that difficulty, and it all depends one on the other, I guess, with regards to what time they go to sleep and what time they wake up this time.
No question. And again, for a child to have that excitement to want to be at a minyan, where does that come from? If it's always about the rule. Okay, no rules today. I'm off today, so I can sleep till 11:00. If we make it more about connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is what we as Jews do, and this is something that how would you not want to grab the opportunity, especially with the Matzav in Eretz Yisrael? Our brothers and sisters need us, and how could we not be there for them? So we're going to sleep away while they're on the front lines, facing all what they're facing. It's that sense of achrayus that, again, to appeal not to the rules, this is what you must do, but this is what we should be doing. This is what we need to do for the sake of our brothers and sisters.
Rabbi Avrohom Stulberger, very, very powerful words. The things that come out of the heart enter the heart. We want to give a thank you to Meor Moshe Naim for suggesting that the Rav Shlita joins the Torah Talks podcast. We have a custom on Torah Talks, which is a final message to our broader audience.
Well, the message really is that while there are many families that are struggling with chinuch habanim and chinuch habanos, I've heard the expression already 25 years ago. The concept of ein bayis she'ein bo imeis. Almost every family has the challenge of having a child being, moving away and not where they need to be, and it's causing a tremendous amount of anguish within Klal Yisrael to see, how many young men and women are not being part of the fold. I think there is. I think especially if we adopt this concept of loving, the unconditional love. Again, Avram Avinu was told by Hashem, "Take the son that you love," and Avram answered back, "I don't know who I love more. I have a measuring rod on my loins. The measure says that I should measure who I love more. I have Yishmael and I have Yitzchak. I don't know who you mean. I don't know who you mean." Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, how can you love Yishmael like you love a Yitzchak? Yeah. The answer is we do. Again, we have to. It's hard. It's challenging. But Avram said to Hashem, "I love them both. I don't know who you mean." Even though he had one who was a Nachas machine and the other one was the Yishmael, who we know his basic life till he did Shuv at the very end of his life. He was not an easy child by any stretch. So we have to love them, and we have to recognize they could very easily come back. Don't give up hope. Don't be down. Try to create the environments up front earlier that we don't have the challenges. But if we're going through it, if we keep positive, we keep the love, we keep them connected, we have seen incredible young men and women growing up from homes that are not so strong, and they go through their teenage years, they go through their periods of time where they might not be where they need to be, but with the love and with the support, they emerge to be incredible people. We see it so often. My ultimate message is one of optimism that we're living in special times. There's a ruach out there in Eretz Yisrael where emunah, where achdus is part of the overall atmosphere. Let's grab onto it. Let's take that positivity of what we're feeling in Eretz Yisrael, of how we responded as a nation to this incredibly horrific event, the horrific events of Simchas Torah, to respond with such strength and such chesed and such love for one another. Let's manifest that love to our children. Our children should always see in our eyes, "I love you," unconditional love. I know you're going through stuff. I know maybe you're not doing what I would want you to do, but I still love you. I'm here for you. When we can connect to them on that way, we're not chas v'shalom dismissing them, discarding them, or giving them a feeling of terrible disappointment. Bez Hashem, they will come back. They will see the truth. They will see that this is the most beautiful life that a person could possibly lead, and Bez Hashem will see nachas from all of them.
Amen. Yeshakach to Rabbi Avrohom Stulberger with those amazing words of inspiration, of chizuk, about chinuch habanim, of educating our children, our boys, our girls, teenagers in particular. Thank you very much to Torah Anytime for hosting this podcast, along with all the other podcast players. And a special thank you to Daily Giving. $1 a day really goes a very, very far way. We see it ourselves over here at Chazaq. And want to thank the Rav once again. Want to thank all those involved with Chazaq and everyone, all of our dear audience. Baruch Hashem, we get tremendous amount of feedback, and it means a lot to us, actually, to hear back from all the listeners. And feel free to send an email to info@chazaq.org, info@chazaq.org. Tuesday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Chazaq Torah Talk with special guests. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much, Rabbi Avrohom. And we should all be zeicher to see the Geula Shlema, the complete redemption. It came, may Rabbi Amen speak in our days. Amen. Amen.